from Beam Media in Dallas, Texas. This is Jack Everett, and I'm going to be doing a full commentary slash walkthrough of Westwood's 1997 game, Blade Runner. So here we are at the main menu. Normally, if you play this game for the first time and don't have a save game, the game will just go immediately into a new game on the medium difficulty setting. But since I have a save game here, we land on the main menu. And there's a few things to note here. Over here we have our currency count, but money is called Chinyen in the game, and I'm not sure where that term comes from. I don't think they ever use it in the film, and I can't remember if they use it in the book. And down here we have our ammo count, and then about the 3 difficulty settings. So if you start a game on easy, your money count will end up being infinite. You'll never run out of money. On medium and hard, you start with 100, and then other than that, I think it just affects how many bullets it takes to take down an enemy and how many bullets McCoy will take before he goes down. But that doesn't really have much of an effect. The game isn't really that difficult to begin with, so it hardly matters. So I'm just going to choose the medium difficulty setting. And we get sort of a cool intro video. It starts out with a very Blade Runner film-esque type Esper zoom in on this thing. And then we're going to see Blade Runner in the Blade Runner font, but not in the font that was actually used in the film. And then this is the same opening crawl that we see in the movie that gives some background information on what replicants are. And one thing to keep in mind here is that replicants are homicidal. In this opening crawl, some replicants are described as having done a bloody mutiny. So replicants are violent against humans, and in the film the replicants kill human beings, and in this game it's pretty much implied that the replicants are quite violent. And so this intro video is actually kind of weird, and I'll explain what I mean when we get to the weird part. But for now we see it's Los Angeles, November 2019, just like the movie. So this game takes place alongside the movie, and I'll point out every time that we bump into something that ties in with the movie specifically. But yeah, we're introduced to the same intro as Blade Runner, with a spinner flying above a part of Los Angeles that is just randomly exploding with fire. Of course, we go into the city instead of to the Tyrell building, unlike the movie. We go to this place called Runciter's Live Animals.
I'm leaving now.
And this is Lucy.
Lucy, my sweet.
I cleaned out the tiger cage and sorted all the meal bins. So, if it's all right, it's my turn to fix dinner.
Haven't you forgotten something, little one? Just one little thing.
Mr. Runciter, please.
It's been a very long day.
I don't want to.
Now, Lucy, I thought we'd settled this last week. Don't let's forget who pays your salary.
And this is pretty disturbing.
We're closed. Come back tomorrow. Wait! I haven't finished with you. I told you we're closed.
We're not here to
This is
buy.
Clovis, the main antagonist of the
You
game.
can't possibly have anything to interest me. These are extremely rare animals of the highest quality.
What a coincidence. So am I. That is the price for humanity.
Please, don't.
And what else might we interest you in today, sir? Perhaps some virtue.
Ooh, brutal.
Not my animals, please. I'm begging you.
But what of honor, little man? At what price? Honor.
Oh my God, no! That tiger is the rarest specimen ever seen.
Tiger, tiger, burning bright. The forest of the night.
VR61661, report to
And here we got Ray McCoy, the character that we
I
play
was just
as.
finishing up my 12 out on patrol when I got the call. Welcome relief, considering that the most action I'd seen all night was a schizoid grandmother doing the shimmy in her underwear in the second sector.
And this is a scene directly out of the movie. Again, like that intro with the explosions over the city. And it doesn't look quite as good as the movie, but it still is pretty awesome.
VR61661, report to Division Headquarters. Code 3, repeat, Code 3.
Last time I had a 3 was when some hooker vomited Thunderbird on Bryant's desk, and yours truly led the cleanup crew.
Yeah, McCoy is always just dropping these
Year and a
really
half on
funny
the job, it was
comments.
still the dirtiest work I'd seen.
This scene is directly out of
Where's
the
Captain
film
Bryant?
as well.
Took
The
a
way that
sick
camera
hit.
panned
Got
down like
himself
that.
a heinous case of ptomaine poisoning. He asked me personally to run the unit in his absence.
Gouza was one of the old-time guys who took their knocks in the streets. He had a friendly way about him, but you didn't want to turn your back on him if you were less than a friend.
Hope you've been enjoying your leisure time, kid, because it's time to take that thumb out of your ass.
Hallelujah.
Don't get too excited. The other Blade Runners are all jammed up. Holden sucking dinner through a straw. Gaff's working the Tyrell break.
I love the way he words that.
Undercover. Looks like you got this one by default.
You really know how to make a girl feel wanted.
Another great line from McCoy.
Animal murder done at Runciter Zoological. Probably just be a schizoid glitz, but we got the call. Old man Runciter lost something like 1 billion chinions worth.
10 to 1, this ain't a job for Rep Detect.
You got something better to do? Perfect your French cooking, maybe?
It's just really good banter between those characters. And here we're introduced to Crystal
Lemon
Still.
tonight, Slim.
I thought
Veteran
you were on
Blade
special
Runner.
assignment.
Wasn't too damn special after I had the suckers out.
What happened?
Couple of fours were masquerading as fibroplast insulators down at Kaiser. I dressed up like a nurse. They never had a chance.
I'll bet. You put him on the machine?
Hell no. There's a beautiful little thing in here called the magic, and it ain't ever been wrong. You develop it, you got a brilliant career ahead of you.
I'm working on it.
What's Gouza got you doing tonight?
AM at Runciter's.
Animal murder. Oh, those skin jobs got no respect for anything that truly lives and breathes. And that goddamn Eldon Tyrell ought to be zipped into a body bag and flushed into deep space.
Get rid of him, we'd be out of a job.
I think we're all overdue for a little off-world paid vacation.
This is one of my favorite lines
You
coming
can
up.
Stop staring at my ass now.
You got eyes in the back of your head?
All you gotta do is ask, Slim.
Animal sales was a profitable and prestigious business since most real animals had died out after the Terran War. There were plenty of electric ones, though, powered by rechargeable batteries. No self-respecting human would own one of those frauds.
Alright, so that was the intro there. So, like, the game's pretty basic. You click somewhere on the ground, McCoy will walk to it, and then you click on a piece of evidence, and McCoy will observe it. But let me show you some of the options real quick. So in the options menu, you get to choose how McCoy behaves, and you can choose between polite, normal, surly, or erratic. And then there's this option here, which is user choice. So in the user choice mode, whenever McCoy has a chance of saying different options, it'll bring up a dialog box that lets you pick what you want McCoy to talk about. The erratic option will just randomly pick one of the possible choices that you would find in the user choice mode, and then the other ones just dictate how McCoy behaves. Like polite, he'll just be nice. He won't ever accuse anyone of anything. And there's also this button down here called Designer Cut, and this is really just a nod to the fact that there's a theatrical release of the film and a director's cut of the film, and I mean at the time, now there's a bunch of cuts of the film. But Designer Cut is not a better version of the game. Designer Cut just removes some of the voiceovers that McCoy does throughout the game. And unlike the film, the voiceovers that McCoy does in this game are pretty interesting, and so I don't see any reason why you would really want to turn them off. Even if you've played the game before, they're still interesting every time, in my opinion. So that's the options menu there, and we'll see we have 100 chinion right now, and we have some bullets. And also we have the Kaya, as it's called. I think it's called the Knowledge Information Assistant or something like that. But there's nothing in it right now because we don't have any clues. But I'll show you how to find a clue. But first, just take a look at this scene and how beautiful it is. Like, this looks absolutely amazing. We got rain falling. We got fluorescent lights shining. All sorts of, you know, effects going on in this scene. And, like, this is 640 by 480, but it still looks amazing even today. Alright, let's start with his... Oh, but one thing that doesn't look so amazing is all the 3D objects. So any 3D object is made of these things called voxels, and they just look really bizarre. And when we get to a scene where McCoy is really big, you'll see how bad it really looks. But one thing about the voxels does is it makes it very easy to find pieces of evidence because they just stick out like a sore thumb. So I bet pretty much every player that's ever played this game, they immediately saw this thing right here because it just feels totally out of place.
Find something?
Piece of chrome.
From a car?
No, I think it's horse chrome. Bag it and tag it.
And so that's our first piece of evidence. There's also some evidence on this door.
I already checked for a crowbar, some kind of tool. No luck, but it looks like we've got some latents.
Make sure the lab boys run them through the mainframe, human and rep.
And also we can talk to the
What
cop.
do you know?
About 30 counts of animal murder and one of aggravated assault. The shop's been thrashed. You ought to see this tiger cub they got in there. It's a goddamn tragedy.
How's old man Runciter holding up?
State of shock. He's been moaning and complaining about his world caving in.
You'd feel the same way if they were your animals. How many perps?
At least 2. Bloody footprints all over the scene.
Must be a delightful sight.
Alright, so also we can tell the cop to canvass
Canvass the area. Maybe somebody had his eyes open.
these
I'm
witnesses. So one of the bullet points on the back of the box was that this is the first real-time 3D adventure. But the truth about it is not really much of this game is real-time. Like, stuff changes as you transition between the various screens, I guess. But this cop interviewing this crowd here is actually real time. Like, if you talk to him before he finishes walking, you won't get all of the witness statements. And so you have to wait for him to completely finish talking. But you can do other things while he's doing it. So there's another piece of evidence
Scratches
here
and paint
on
flecks,
this.
and I knew what they meant. Unless the city had bought a jet black fire truck, somebody had a big fat traffic ticket coming.
Alright, so there was some paint on this fire hydrant, and there's also this trash can back here.
Nothing even remotely interesting, but hell, if I was going to root through trash, my expectations weren't too high.
That's like one of my favorite lines in the game because the way he says it doesn't sound quite right. It almost sounds like he's saying there was nothing interesting in the garbage can except for some H word that was in the garbage can. And that was interesting. But clearly that's not really what he intended to say.
Nothing even remotely interesting, but hell, if I was going to root through trash, my expectations weren't too high.
Alright, so while we wait for this cop here to finish interviewing the crowd, let's go check out the crime scene.
Judging from the distance between the prints, I was looking for 2 very big men. One dragged his right foot, indicating a possible injury or lameness. The other appeared a lot more controlled, graceful even. Quite a pair.
So you'll see McCoy's voiceovers, like, they tell you what's going on. They're not like the movie voiceovers where it's just kind of weird. And, okay, so one thing I want to show right away is there's a piece of evidence that I've never seen anyone get in any videos I've ever seen. And there are these shell casings on the ground here.
Big caliber, possibly off-world combat weaponry. Ballistics might give me a fix on it.
Now, like the first 5 or 6 times I played the game, I never found those shell casings, but they are there, and so that's where they are. Alright, so let's talk but before we talk to this victim, this guy Runciter, like I was saying during the intro video, replicants are just known to be violent, and they just murder people. Like, they don't have an issue murdering people. Like, if you've seen the film,
Totally ruined.
Roy kills Sebastian, and it's just like Sebastian is basically an innocent, but Roy still kills him, and so we know that they're violent. But these replicants did not kill this guy Runciter, and so that's kind of out of place. But you know, we couldn't interview him if they had killed him. So let's talk to him.
McCoy, LPD.
I'm absolutely certain Lucy Devlin was involved in this heinous act. She's the young girl who works for me.
She's responsible for all this mayhem?
No, of course not. It was two men acting in concert with her, obviously.
Obviously. What'd they look like?
Big and scary and absolutely malevolent. My precious one.
Alright, so we already
She
knew
was
that
my
from the
baby.
opening video, but obviously McCoy doesn't know everything.
Can you think of anything they might have been after?
First I thought they wanted money, but I don't keep any in the shop. Then I thought they wanted to steal my animals, but they started executing them.
Could they have been replicants?
Who else would be capable of such barbaric acts?
Now, one thing is, like, Runciter knows about replicants. If you watch the movie, it seems like replicants are more of a thing where, like, people don't really know replicants are around, but Runciter is just accusing replicants, which is kind of incongruent with the film.
My precious one. She was my baby.
You ever do any business with the replicant manufacturers, Tyrell Corporation?
I resent that accusation.
Just wondering.
Officer, last May I personally sold Governor Colvig an exquisite Bergeron colt. I have been a guest at his house on 3 separate occasions. Do I look like I need to carry artificial product?
And Runciter will still have some more to say.
Tell me about this Lucy.
There's not a lot I can tell you. She's only worked for me for about a month. She's about 14 years old with pink hair. A very attractive young thing.
How'd you find her?
She came to me with a reference from Ogilvy's in the Northwest Zone. And he's a very reputable wholesaler.
You treat her well?
As well as any young tot should be treated.
She got a desk? Or someplace where she worked?
She used to eat over there.
Alright, so that actually unlocks this area back here. But we can also
You got
get
any discs from that camera?
some discs
It's
from this
irrelevant.
camera.
Those murderers also destroyed the camera. Thousands of chinyens worth.
Maybe it photographed them before they shot it out.
I guess you've got a point at that.
That's sort of a, like, well, duh moment. And, I mean, being that this is an older adventure game, there's some waiting going on while these animations complete.
I believe this is the disc from last night.
And then we can
Peachy.
also get Lucy's
All my
reference.
animals.
See if you can dig up that reference from Ogilvy's.
Yes, it's somewhere here. Just a moment.
But luckily Runciter is still back there, so he doesn't have to walk that far. And I think that's all that Runciter has to say to us at the
Here
moment.
you are.
But
Stick
we'll look
around.
at it.
I may not be finished with you.
So we can see here, like, this scene is pretty violent, but it still looks really awesome, and all the animals are covered up, so I guess that's why this game has a T rating and not an M rating. Now, in Lucy's, we'll find this toy dog here.
A toy
And you're
dog.
like, why the heck's there a freaking toy dog? Why do you even care? There's some
Howie
chopsticks
Lee's
down here.
in Chinatown. I'd eaten there myself.
There's this candy bar here, which is the same
A
candy
candy
bar
bar.
that Guza was
Yuck.
eating at the in the intro video. Well, I mean, not the same candy bar, but it was the same brand. There's also this cool poster here of monkeys,
Well, isn't that cute?
and it'll make McCoy say that.
Well, isn't that cute?
And like ever since I played this game, every time I see something cute that I don't care about, and I sarcastically say, well, isn't that cute? Just like McCoy.
Well, isn't that cute?
Alright, so that's all the evidence here. So there's nothing else to find in here.
Precious one.
And I don't think
She was
Runciter...
my baby.
Stick around. I may
Yeah,
not be finished
there's
with
nothing
you.
more from Runciter. And so we'll go out and McCoy will have something to say.
It didn't add up. Animal murders, the lack of any theft. The small animals alone were worth a good chunk of change on the street. It seemed more like an act of vengeance.
Well, he just said it didn't add up, but then he added up what it might mean, that it's an act of vengeance. Alright, so let's talk to the cop, find out what he found out from the crowd.
Find anything else out here?
This woman says she saw that kid who worked for Runciter hanging around with a big fat guy last week.
Alright, so we know Lucy was hanging around with a big fat guy.
Find anything else out here?
This guy lives across the street. Says he heard a crash late last night. Looked out his window and saw a black sedan speeding away from the scene.
And there we got a second witness about a car. So the black sedan's been mentioned. We know that the fire hydrant had black paint on it. So the black car is something of interest. And I think that's it.
Find anything else out here?
Zilcho. Row actions inside. Abstract art. All over the walls and ceiling.
I never did appreciate art.
But I love that line from McCoy where he's like, I never did appreciate art. Alright, so that's the very first couple of screens in the game. And, well, I want to show you our evidence database. So, the first tab here is our cases database. And right now the only case that we have is the animal murder case. And then there's 3 suspects. There's Lucy and then 2 unidentified suspects. But then we found some evidence here.
This woman says this guy.
We got the
I already checked
interviews.
for
Judging.
She came...
So we have all this evidence. Now if we go to the suspects tab, it divides up the case by suspects. And so let's just go to the Lucy suspect tab and I'll show you why the toy dog is important. So if we uncheck all these boxes down here, we can see, well, what's the evidence that Lucy's a replicant? Well, it's Runciter's interviews.
I'm absolutely certain Lucy... There's not a lot I can tell you.
But then,
She's only worked
what's
for me
the
for about
evidence
a
that
month.
she might not
She's
be a
about
replicant?
14 years old.
Well, it's that she had a toy dog and she had some candy, and a replicant might not care about those things. And so Lucy is one of, I think, 5 characters that are randomly either a replicant or not a replicant. And so McCoy needs to detect whether or not they're replicants. And then this third tab just has all of the clues whatsoever. Alright, so actually, with all the evidence we found, there is enough evidence here to finish the first act without ever going to the police station. But since I'm showing you everything that's in the game, we're going to go ahead and go to the police station. But you'll notice here this area, Chinatown, has been unlocked, and then there's also the police station and McCoy's apartment. And we'll get to McCoy's apartment in the next episode, but for now we're going to start out by going to the police station just to so I can show you everything that's there. So the police station is divided into several different floors, and as soon as we go into the elevator, we'll see what they are, and we'll just start at the top and work our way down. So the third floor is called the laboratory, and there's a few things wrong with the laboratory. First of all, if you read the manual says that this guy back here, Dino Klein, cannot analyze any of McCoy's evidence unless he first dumps all the evidence into this computer terminal on floor 2 called the Mainframe. But that actually doesn't matter. We can just talk to Dino and he'll start talking to us about all the various evidence that we found at Runciter's crime scene.
Got anything new for me, Dino?
I was wondering when you'd show your mug around here, McCoy. The shell casings from Runciter should be in the Museum of Military History.
How's that?
They're from an Ender rifle. It's standard issue off-world military hardware. Heavy caliber. That puppy can punch right through a tank.
What can I conclude from that?
Whoever used this piece didn't just walk into their local sporting goods store and buy it. Those babies are collectibles, and they ain't cheap.
So if you don't find those shell casings on the ground, you won't get that.
Anything else?
We got the animal corpses from Runciter's, but there wasn't a whole lot to work with.
Bone marrow?
About 50% were real, the rest were fakes.
So, Runciter was ripping his customers off.
State-of-the-art fakes. Miles beyond the crap you see on Animoid Row.
The kind that comes from legit manufacturers?
And they're the ones that usually produce the quality.
What about the wounds?
Most of them were shot point blank, but we're looking at some others. Sloppy cuts with a knife, like the perp was really pissed off at something.
Butcher knife?
Could be, but who cuts meat anymore?
Nice bunch of reps I'm tailing. Hope you're not pulling a meat cleaver out of my back next week.
Alright, so there's like something kind of funny about what he just said. Dino here just mentioned that half of Runciter's animals were fake. Now later in the game, McCoy will find additional evidence that Runciter had fake animals. And when McCoy finds it, even though Dino just said that, McCoy will still act like he's completely surprised that Runciter had fake animals. And so Dino has more stuff to say.
Anything else?
That black paint you found on the fire hydrant, it's from a ground car.
You sure?
The angle of impact was almost head on. And there ain't too many spinner drivers klutzy enough to smack a street-level hydrant in VTOL mode.
I heard your wife got her license back.
Another
You're
joke
a real
from
funny
McCoy.
guy, McCoy.
Yeah, McCoy cracks a bunch of really funny lines in this game. I've heard people criticize his lines and say they're not as funny as they think they are, but I think they're funny.
Anything else?
That piece of chrome you found outside of Runciter's is from a 1995 Pontiac.
Nice set of wheels.
It's okay, not what I call a classic.
Alright, and I think that might be all.
Anything else?
Zip, man. Try me later.
Yeah, so he says, "Zip, man, try me later," but there is absolutely no more evidence you'll ever get from Dino. After you finish the first act, Dino just disappears. It's very sad, because the manual describes him as if he's like your go-to man to analyze your evidence, and he never shows up again. Alright, so let's move on to the second floor, which is the Mainframe.
Violent street crime in the city
shooting
rose
range.
again last year
there's
by a
also this
whopping
news report going on
26%, according
here.
to the latest figures from the Department of Justice. Governor Kolvig attributed the change to the dramatic increase in the number of specials registered as city residents and promised a tough new set of standards for the City Immigration Bureau by next month.
Alright, so that's just giving us some background information on what's going on in the world. But if we click on this monitor, it'll show us the scores from the shooting range. And you'll see here, Steele is at the top, and then we got Gaff, and he's the second best. Then Holden, then Bryant, then Guza, and then Deckard, the protagonist of the movie. And Deckard's obviously a pretty crappy shot. Then we got McCoy, who hasn't even run it yet. And these scores aren't a fixed thing. Every time you visit this, various of the Blade Runners may have gone through the shooting range and the scores may change. And in fact, if you as McCoy ever beat Crystal's score, if you leave and come back, Crystal will always have beaten your score, because Crystal always wants to be the top shot. And then this hallway or whatever
Nothing
also
even
has a
remotely
garbage
interesting, but hell, if I was going to root through trash, my expectations weren't too high.
Yeah, that's my favorite line in the whole game. Well, actually, my favorite line involves eggs, and we'll get to that later on. There's also some cigarette
Lucky
butt here.
Strikes. Crystal's brand. I knew she was spending a lot of time in the training maze these days, even though she'd already gotten close to a perfect score.
And the training maze is over here. And we'll talk to the guy over here, but I'm not going to do the training maze.
Well,
I will do it as a bonus episode,
play with the big boy.
but realistically
My
it's
clearance
just
comes through?
too long and
You
boring
bet.
for
You
me
bring
to
your
do
piece?
as
Don't leave home without
a
it.
regular episode
Steele's
of
been running
this
the maze every other day for 2
commentary.
weeks, and the targets are getting a little roughed up.
I thought Guza was going to requisition some new ones.
I ain't seen him down here in a month. Guess he's been busy.
But we
Poor
can
guy.
talk to this
I bet he
guy.
gets all tuckered out from pushing those papers around.
And don't sell him short, McCoy. Guza could be one tough hombre. I remember when we worked mice together. He poured acetone on 2 pimps that gave us some lip and lit a match. I'll tell you, it looked like the goddamn 4th of July out there.
Peachy,
Alright, I think this guy's name is Jack, actually.
you keeping busy, pal?
Nah, the place has been pretty quiet the last couple of days.
Alright, so he has nothing more to say right now. So over here is the mainframe, and the mainframe is where you can dump all your clues into the database. So if we look right here,
Most of them were the
I'm
shell
gonna
casings
clear
from Runciter should be in the Museum of
all
Military
of the...
History.
I'm going to
They're
make sure
from an
there's
Ender
none of those
rifle,
little
a
tick
standard
marks
issue
next to
off-world
these,
military
so that I
hardware.
can show you what visiting the mainframe does.
Uploading personal clue database.
So it's going to upload all of the clues that McCoy has to the database,
Downloading
and then
mainframe
download
clue
all
database.
the clues that are in the database. So now if
Clue
we click on
database transfer
McCoy,
complete.
we're going to see that there are some new evidence that has been downloaded. This one called Crime Scene Notes, and then a Gregorian Interview A and a Gregorian Interview B. And I'll play those in the next episode, well, when we get to Act 2, because they're more important for Act 2 than they are for Act 1. But over here we have the Esper machine, where we can do a 3D scan of
Scanning
the
video
images
disc.
that we found
2 enhanceable
at
images
Runciter's.
found.
And this will be the last thing that we do in this episode. So throughout the game you'll collect various photographs, but depending on the random variables in the game, the photos will be different, but these first two photos are always the same. In fact, everything in Act 1 is always exactly the same. There's nothing random in Act 1. And so the first thing that we can find is there is Lucy back here. And one thing I have to say about this Esper machine, though. In the movie, the Esper machine...
Hello there, Lucy. Give me a hard copy of that.
...is just a lot more difficult to use. Because in the movie, Deckard has to be like, okay, track right. Wait a minute. Go left. In this one, you just drag a box around with the mouse. It's way easier to use. And we can also look at Lucy's foot.
Some kind of insect.
And you'll see she's wearing this jewelry. And the jewelry plays an important role in Act 2 and Act 3. And then also we can zoom in on Lucy's workstation back here. And we will see a sushi menu.
A sushi menu from Howie Lee's. Give me a hard copy of that.
And so in this game there's multiple ways of unlocking new areas and progressing the story. We found the chopsticks for this sushi bar at Runciter's, but if we didn't bother picking up that evidence, we'd also be able to unlock the Chinatown area by looking at this sushi menu here. And then I believe that's all that there is in this photograph. Alright. Oh, also, like, if I miss anything in this walkthrough that you notice, be sure to post in the comments so that I'll know. Like, if I missed anything in these photographs or anything like that. Because I want to be as comprehensive as possible. So, at Runciter's, we can get our first photograph of Clovis by zooming in on his face here.
He looks familiar. Give me a hard copy of that.
And then we can also zoom in on Clovis's boot here.
Muddy boots. Guess he's from out of town. Give me a hard copy of that.
Alright, and then we can also get a read on the license plate of this car back here.
Local license plate. Give me a hard copy of that.
And then we can also get the whole car, but I always have trouble getting this one. Like, this one's harder to get the right angle. But if you do it right, you can see the whole car. And I might have to cut to when I actually get it, because this one always seems to take me multiple tries to get. Yeah, that's no good. Like, you can tell when you got it because the screen just starts flashing, but it doesn't start zooming. Yeah, so that one's no good. I almost feel like you're supposed to zoom in just on the a trunk, but it's just random. Well, I mean, it's not random, but it's like very specific. And it's a matter of luck if you get it or not. I think I used to know how to get it every time in the first try. Alright, we got it that time.
A black ground car. Looks like it's been around the block a few times. Give me a hard copy of that.
Alright, and so let me think again, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that is absolutely everything that we can get out of those two photographs. But let me know if I missed anything for sure. And we're going to call that good for this episode, but stay tuned for the next episode where I finish up the case, and also I'll be posting a bonus episode of me doing the shooting range. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk at you later.